So, there are millions upon millions of ways to earn money, right? Well, I'm here to tell you there's actually only two. Now, I know exactly what you're thinking right now. This guy has clearly lost his mind. He doesn't even know what he's talking about. Where has he been? This is actually a little bit embarrassing. Well, I'm actually not going to fully deny any of that. But really, when you look at it, it all boils down to two methods in which money can be earned. What are they? Well, let me quick share with you a couple statistics that I think you're going to find pretty interesting. Of these two methods, 97% of our population earns money in one of these two ways. Meanwhile, only 3% of our population earns money in the second method. Okay, pretty interesting. So what are they? Do you want to take a guess at what the one method is that 97% of the people do? Now, I just want to make it very clear. It's not a bad thing. In fact, this works for many, many people. Not saying it's bad at all. This is just what works for most people. As you can see, 97 out of every 100 people out there, this is what they do. What is it? Well, trading time for money. Now, this can be done when you report to a job. Maybe you work for yourself. Maybe you own a business and you work there. But basically reporting to a job and trading your time for an hourly wage, an annual salary, maybe commissions or tips, whatever it happens to be. No matter how you look at it, you got to put in the time or the productivity in order to walk away with the dough. You know what I mean? So whatever your hourly wage is, you're trading 1 hour of your time for X dollars, or you're trading a year of your life as a salary in order to walk away with a lump sum of blank dollars as a salary, right? Or maybe you're strictly commission-based. Maybe somebody like a realtor or somebody like that. You got to sell the product, got to sell the house in order to walk away with your commission, right? Otherwise, you don't get paid. You know what I mean? So, okay, certainly very interesting. I get the concept. 97% of the people do that. Now I'm really interested to know, what do the other 3% do? And why do these 3% do it in this way? Well, that is having money work for you. So there's two options. You work for money, or number two, having money work for you. And this is what 3% of the population does. Only 3 out of every 100 people walking around in the world use this method for their income. Rather than actually going out and reporting to a job, these people take their money and say, hey, little guy, why don't you go out into the world and multiply and come back with a bunch of friends, right? They send out all their little buddies and they come back and say, hey, get out there, get a bunch of friends, and then come back to me and multiply. That's what these people do. Now, how do they do it? Now, again, there are multiple different ways that you can have your money work for you. But this method is really kind of cool in its own way, as in there's no such thing as saturation, which I'll talk about more here in just a second. There's literally infinite ways that you can send your money out and have it come back to you and multiply. Well, let me give you a couple quick examples. Now, again, there are multiple ways within this section or this method in which you can have money work for you. But let me give you a couple quick examples. Number one, maybe a person invests in real estate. Okay, maybe they buy a house, maybe they buy an apartment building, they buy something. Maybe it's a retail store, or maybe it's a mall or something like that. You buy real estate, and then they have the tenants send them monthly checks, and in return for their initial investment, meanwhile, they're getting cash flow, and they're getting a return on their investment at whatever percentage that may be. It could be a couple of percent, it could be 10, 15, 20%, or even more in some instances. So for every maybe $10 or every $100 they're sending out, they're maybe getting back $5 back, $10 back, $20 back as a return on their investment. The money is multiplying. Another situation could be, maybe they buy dividend-paying stocks. Okay, now how does this work? They go in and they take, let's just say, $100, and they buy a stock for $10 a piece. They buy 10 shares at $10 a piece. Meanwhile, every quarter, that stock is paying a dividend, whatever that dividend has to be. Regardless of the price action of that stock, Every single quarter, that person is getting a small dividend payment. Whatever it happens to be, they're getting a check in their mailbox every single quarter, quarter after quarter, because they bought 10 shares of this company that pays a dividend. So once again, they're getting a return on their investment. Their money is multiplying. Pretty cool concept, right? So what is another example? Maybe somebody buys a business or a portion of a business. Maybe the person has a bunch of money and they say, hey, I want to buy a business, but I actually don't want to work at the business. I just want to invest in the business and I want to be like a silent owner. I kind of just want to hang out in the wings and just I want to have the excess cash flow to me as the business grows. Well, maybe they throw down $100,000 or $500,000 or $1 million to acquire a business. Meanwhile, that business continues to operate and throw off additional profits, revenues, and cash flow. Meanwhile, that person, the owner who threw down the initial investment, whatever it happened to be, it could have been $1,000, $10,000, $1 million, or $10 million. Doesn't matter. But all of a sudden, they are getting cash back on their initial investment. Again, whatever it happened to be. What's another example? Well, maybe somebody has a portion or a small partial ownership in a business. Maybe somebody just says, hey, I don't actually want to own a business, but I have some extra money laying around. I want this money to get to work for me, and I want this money to start producing for me. How can I do that? Well, there just so happens to be a guy down on the corner who is looking to raise $100,000. I just so happen to have $10,000 laying around. Maybe I will invest into his business by giving him my $10,000. As a return, he's going to give me maybe 10% of the upside of his business. From then going forward, all of the cash flow or the positive cash flow that he gets out of his business, he shuffles 10% of that back to me since I gave him my $10,000. Make sense? So over time, my 10 grand continues to return money to me, maybe on a quarterly or semi-annual or maybe annual basis, whatever it happens to be that you've worked out with that business owner. Get what I'm saying? So let's get back to the saturation point that I was making just a second ago. For those people, the 97% of the people who are trading their time for money, the unfortunate part about this method is there's something called saturation. In other words, everybody, no matter who you are, no matter where you live, no matter what you do, you only get 24 hours a day. Every single person gets 24 hours a day. Well, with that being said, you can only work so many hours out of the day. Realistically, you can only work whatever that number is. Maybe you can work 24 hours in one day, but guess what? You can't do that forever. You can only do that for maybe a day or so until you need to stop and recover by getting some sleep and taking some time off to just rest for a minute, right? So that's the problem with this first method that 97% of the people do, is there is saturation. You only have so much time. When you're trading your time for money, you can really only put in so much time. Therefore, your income is essentially capped to some degree. You get what I'm saying? You probably know exactly what I mean. Now, you could think, oh, I could get multiple jobs. Yes, you could, but once again, you only have so much time that you can trade for that hourly wage. However, the difference with method number 2 that 3% of the population does is that there is infinite possibility. They can literally take their money because they're not trading their time anymore. They're trading their money. They're trading the green stuff in their pockets, in their bank accounts for the return, right? So they can literally deploy as much money as they could ever want to and have that money continue to work for them. Meanwhile, they're out doing whatever they want with their time because they're not trading their time to get that wage, to get that money, the salary, the commission, the tip. You know what I mean? So one major benefit of method number 2, it's literally infinite. There's no cap on it. You could have 5 different sources of income. You could have 10. You could have 1,000. You could have 10,000. You could have 1,000,000 sources of income where you keep piling money into. You could invest money or you could put money into something and that money will continue to work for you. Meanwhile, you're laying on the beach or doing whatever you want. Literally, it doesn't matter. Your money is working for you, getting you that rate of return month over month. Pretty cool concepts, right? So anyway, I hope this gets you thinking a little bit. maybe start converting to the other side. Try to jump over to that 3%er side. You never know. Either way, I hope this video helps you out and gets you thinking a little bit that it all flows back to just these two methods in which money can be earned. Either you trade your time for money and you work for money, or you get money to work for you and multiply. Pretty cool, right? Thanks so much for watching. Please make sure to hit that subscribe button right down below the video. And feel free to share this video with your friends, family, and social media. Thank you so much for your support. I truly appreciate it, and I'll catch you later.